Hi everybody, hope you're well. Today the purpose really is just bringing people together to look at the Med Fund again. I know we had a session just a couple of weeks ago focusing on this, and obviously we've been talking to members individually and trying to, kind of gather your feedback, look at what the challenges are and see how, if all, we can support you. So we thought maybe the best thing to do is bring everybody together again, focusing on this topic. And really just the main purpose is looking at that collaborative piece when we go into the breakout rooms, sharing ideas, suggestions, letting us know what the challenges are. We can feed them back to the funders. And yeah, just coming together and trying to be a support mechanism and a supportive space. To kick us off, we have a video from Niamh, our CEO, Niamh O'Reilly. She's actually physically at the launch. Very exciting to be at a physical event. She's at the launch of the new literacy strategy and also celebrations for World Literacy Day today. So we'll just show this video of Niamh and we'll come back to me in a moment.
Good afternoon, everybody. If it's raining there and it's sunny here, it's because I'm recording it the night before. I have to attend something tomorrow afternoon, but I just was really conscious of the need to engage with members, particularly with community education organisations regarding the Mitigating Against Education Disadvantage Fund. Just want to, I suppose, lend our support with regard to your applications that you're putting in. We advocated hard for the fund. It was great to secure the 8 million. We're also conscious that it needs to be able to reach the communities, the learners who need that fund most. We know that it can be challenging around putting in applications, and we just want you to know that we're here for the support that you might need. There was a webinar which was held by AONTAS the 18th of August. We have frequently asked questions, and our Head of Advocacy, Dearbháil Lawless, is there to support you. But I just want to, I suppose, impress the need to capture the number of organisations that are applying for the fund, the challenges that you may be having, because I'm conscious if the fund is not spent, it'll be very difficult to get such a fund going forward. And also we want to be able to support organisations who need that funding. We know that there's been a great demand. We know from the CEN census that there are waiting lists, that many learners want to engage, but we also know that there's a huge amount of learners who want to participate, people who need to engage and could do with that support and that outreach and engagement. Having people on the ground in the community, encouraging people back into learning is needed for that. And what we've been hearing back from members is that it's been quite challenging with regard to the applications. So obviously we would encourage you to go to your local ETB to understand the criteria of the fund. I mean, there's the funding to cover the cost of digital devices, there's the Learning Support Fund, there's support for outreach engagement and additional specific costs that arose from COVID. And the fund is specifically with regard to the impact that COVID has had and encouraging people back into learning. So I think it's I know the deadlines are approaching. I know people are very busy in September. I know people need the funding. But for us to advocate effectively for your needs as members of AONTAS, as community education organisations, we need to understand what blocks there might be. We need to look at how we could potentially resolve them before the deadlines come into play. And we want to look at creating a space for organisations to come together and to share information of what they're putting in for, to encourage others to be able to I suppose what I've heard one member of the team saying, go big or go home, because we know there's a huge need there. And the application itself, or the criteria of the fund, is quite broad. So encouraging you to put in for the funding that you need. And if you're having those blocks, to let us know. So I'm sorry I can't be there today. But I think it's, it's vitally important that as a collective, we look at, engaging with the fund as best possible, identifying the issues, supporting each other to put in the applications, and please do rely, on ourselves and AONTAS to be able to support you in putting in those applications. So what we're looking at is the need at the moment, the need from learners, and also future need and how we can advocate for additional funding for community education. So I'm going to leave it there and hand over to the capable hands of the AONTAS team. Thank you.
So the other thing I just wanted to go through was the frequently asked questions resource that we've developed. And so everybody kindly shared their perspectives at the last webinar that we had, and I've been engaging with people one-to-one as well by email and phone call. So what I'll do is share my screen and show you the FAQ that I made. My screen is now freezing. Wonderful. There we go. I think I'm okay. The FAQ that we made, and then as part of that, I've kind of put down some helpful hints, and then also the areas of spending that were there before. And hopefully that will be a help, because I know, like, obviously people have ideas of what they'd like to spend it on, but it might be really helpful to see what other people did last year and what was successful in terms of what they were allowed to get. So this is the document that we made, and it's now available on the website. So basically, I suppose the key point to highlight first of all as well is that, as you know, it's not AONTAS providing this funding. So for the final clarification, please do link in with your ETB. And the funding obviously comes from the department through SOLAS, and then is shared out through the ETBs to kind of coordinate the whole process. So just wanted to make that clear, I suppose. So I'll just go through some of the questions, and hopefully maybe that will be helpful, because this is the type of stuff that people have been emailing me about, or that you shared in the breakout rooms. Can the fund be used to pay staff costs or tutor hours? No, unfortunately it can't. Is there room for discrepancy on capital items slightly above €1,000 threshold? The €1,000 is very strictly the €1,000, and that same goes for, say, for example, if you order something and it's not inclusive of tax and then the tax is added afterwards, it's always the final amount. So just make sure when you're ordering anything that you're kind of aware of that. If we applied for IT equipment last year, can we apply for it again? Yes, you can. If you need more equipment, please do put it in there. And to be honest, it's probably one of the easiest items to be able to get permission for. Can we apply for funding to cover the QQI re-engagement fees? I'm really sad to say no. We fought really, really hard for that, and we thought it was about to go through, and at the last minute wasn't included, but we're still trying to get a fund to cover that cost. So I'm sorry, it can't be included. Is there a template for purchasable items? No, there isn't, but as I said, we've included a list of items at the end of this, all from the research team's report last year. Can we apply for items such as stamps, envelopes, or other stationery? Yes, you can. And I'd suggest putting it underneath outreach or supporting learners in the exceptional circumstances bracket. Can we use the fund to help with non-formal education programs such as cooking or exercise? Yes, you can. And I suppose I think it's always about how you frame these things, obviously, as well. So is this for re-engagement or to support mental health and well-being? Which I'd imagine most of the time it is. So make sure to include this point in your application, and maybe have some discussions with your ETB provider as well. Can we help learners with mobile phone credit, bus fare, lunches, etc.? Yes. So this is a really exciting part of the fund that was there last year as well, and it's the Learner Assistance Fund. And as most of you will know, that is a really strong point that happens in universities and in third level education in general, where they're able to provide learners who are disadvantaged or maybe experiencing financial hardship at a certain time with financial support. And now the community education providers will be able to do this underneath this fund. Now, you will obviously have to assess the need and have a discussion with the learner, and then they will need to keep a copy of all the receipts. So for example, if you want to support a learner to pay a bill, to give them bus tickets, to buy phone credit, anything like that, they just need to make sure that they have receipts for everything. And you need to be able to keep all of that and make sure that it's all accounted for and spent within 2021. I was about to say 2020 there, I don't know where I'm going. Can we fund courses such as Safe Pass or manual handling? Unfortunately, no. And this is just something I was discussing with Niamh the other day, because I want to get back to a member. This is something that would come underneath your other core funding stream, so it can't be put underneath this fund. But you can, say, for example, put in for CPD on improving your IT skills, or maybe learning how to use a software that you're applying for underneath this, and you'd put that underneath the frame of blended learning or hybrid learning. Can we purchase software such as Canva, Zoom, or Teams? Yes, and I would strongly encourage you to, because I know ourselves, the AONTAS team, will say we've found using that software, any of those software, is really, really helpful. And I think for yourselves, just to have access to that would be amazing. So for example, quite a lot of the presentations the leaflets, flyers, everything that you see that the geniuses, Barry, Emma and Katie create, that's done most often on Canva, and it's a really easy to use website. Zoom, obviously, we're using now, which is amazing. To have a license for that, so you're not cut down to 30 minutes, will make your life so much easier. And Teams is actually really helpful for doing a lot of work. So, for example, if you were delivering some of your classes online, or you're trying to be able to improve your communication between your staff and your learners, using something like Teams means you can create very easy and quick to use meeting links, multiple at the same time. You can add them to your calendar, and you can create different project folders, and you can add documents to there. You can work on documents at the same time. There's loads of functions to it. It takes a little bit to get used to, but it's worth it. It's actually very helpful. And I think especially when you're doing something collaboratively. In terms of helpful tips, be explicit with the profile and needs of your learner cohort. So remember, the fund is aimed to support disadvantaged learners. So obviously we know from the CEN research as well, or the community education research, that the majority of learners in community education are from disadvantaged backgrounds. So if your learners are lone parents, they have a disability, they're a member of the Traveller or Roma community, they're education disadvantaged, early school leavers, anything like that, please do make sure that you state that in your application, because that will strengthen it. Make sure that your application is clear and easy to read, with strong connections between the aim, activities and intended outcomes. We're all guilty of thinking, sure, everybody knows what I mean. They don't. Be really, really explicit. My background, as I think a lot of you will know, before this role was the EU project. So I've written a lot of project applications myself, and it is a challenge. But I can tell you the one thing that you really need to do is make sure that everything is very closely linked. Be just explicit with saying, this is the aim of the project. This is what activities we'll have which connect back to that aim and our objectives. And these are the intended outcomes and your deliverables and all that. So just make sure it's really clear and really obvious as you stream those things across. And get someone else to read it after you, because it could be the most amazing application or project, but it's just not that clear to read. And it's always good to get someone else to give you feedback, constructive feedback, and take that on board. And every draft is an improvement, so that's always a positive outcome. Measuring the impact of the spend is very important, and it must be recorded. So you might choose to say have focus groups, interviews, or send out surveys before and after the delivery. Now, I know we're not saying you need to go and conduct a large scale piece of research. You're busy enough as it is, but doing something like meeting the learners and saying, like, what's the situation at the moment? What are your challenges? Even identifying, say, the technology level and the need. Like, do they have access to Wi-Fi? Do they have technology? How comfortable are they using devices? And you're kind of measuring that level, doing a needs analysis. And then afterwards, you'll be able to say, well, 70% of our learners didn't have access to IT equipment, and now they all do. 80% of our learners had little or no understanding of using Teams or Zoom, and now 100% of them have improved their skills in this area. That sort of thing will make a big impact to show that you were very successful in the delivery of the work that you're doing. And obviously ask the research team for more advice on that, and not me, when it comes to measuring the impact. So possible items for spending, this hopefully will be very helpful. And this is all based on the research from last year. So surely, hopefully it will be fine. But as I say, there could always be a little bit of disparity between ETB. So do check just for final clarification. ICT devices and accessories, laptops, that could be for yourselves or for the learners. Tablets, printers, a photocopier, headsets, Wi-Fi boosters, screens, projectors, an overhead projector, audio visual units. I don't know what that is, but it sounds very fancy. Webcams, cameras, protective cases, screen covers, peripherals. Once again, don't know what that is, but it's in there. Charging cabinet stations, visualizers, mice, USB keys, ancillary hardware. There's a lot of fancy stuff on this list, but if you know what it is, maybe have a Google of it as well. Assistive technology, virtual classroom, IT setup, a mobile internet connection. So any of those sort of things you can put in underneath that software and technology. And one of the things that a member said to me last time, which was really helpful, is that people were so gung-ho on ordering laptops that they forgot to order or think about the fact that they have to pay for like Microsoft Word or any of the software that you'd need on your laptop, and also maybe buying laptop bags for your learners. Like if you're going to give a learner a tablet or a laptop because they need it, don't expect them to have to buy the bag or the cover as well. If they're obviously under financial hardship, they can't spend the €20 on trying to buy a bag too. So just cover that and put it in there as well. And the same for the staff. ICT services, Zoom and educational platform accounts, different software, Windows, antivirus, ICT training, technical support, service contracts, website development, then non-ICT learning materials, books for a library, stamps, envelopes, stationery, growing tunnels and associated landscaping and equipment, sewing machines or teaching upholstery, art supplies, art and craft packs, cookery equipment, training equipment. So there's loads of really interesting pieces that you can put in there. Other necessary materials, office equipment, furniture, desks, ergonomic chairs, lab cappy. Once again, don't know what that is. Antibacterial mats, PPE gear. So, you know, your gloves, your masks, all that sort of stuff. Dividing screens, health and safety equipment in general, sanitizing and cleaning products, COVID-friendly equipment and materials for a community hub, acoustic panels, construction materials. I presume that doesn't mean a saw or a hammer, but I will say, I think like the two probably safest options are your IT equipment and also your health and safety. It's very hard to say no to someone who's applying for health and safety equipment or materials. And I know even in Dublin 8C and TC, they ordered even an iPad to be able to help check people in when they were coming in and do temperature checks. Now I know that the temperature checks has been removed and said that it isn't necessary, but there might be other apps on something like an iPad that you can use that will make the process much easier. And even signage, like Barry was suggesting that before, which I think is a great idea. Like if you're asking people to come in one door and out another, and you have to, you know, only walk on the left side or whatever, then buy the signage to do that, to make your life easier. The last thing you need to do is go around with paper, writing signs and sticking it on the walls. And it might get confusing for people. So anything you need, just think about all that stuff. Learner costs, leap cards for commuting, book tokens, vouchers to reduce the cost of data and broadband costs. Like I know in some centres as well, people literally bought mobile phones and put phone credit on it as a way. I thought this was really smart. They could obviously communicate then and link in with WhatsApp and stuff, but they could also use the phone as a hotspot. So instead of, you know, it's very, you can't obviously give someone Wi-Fi, but you can give them an object that they can use as a hotspot to turn on the laptop that they need, or a tablet or something. So I thought that was really smart. And then learner support, mentoring support, psychoeducational support for young adults with a disability, support for disadvantaged individuals accessing third level education, training courses, cognitive behavioral therapy counselling, luncheon centre twice per week which students organise. So this is something obviously that someone did in a specific centre. And then promotional materials to re-engage learners. So you can see there's a whole range of different items that people have used. Really, really smart choices there. And there's probably more that you guys can come up with that you know is based on the needs of the area where you work. So please do be creative. And as Niamh said, go big or go home. We obviously can't speak to what will definitely be approved or not, but we did see a trend last year with people who put in for larger amounts were very successful. So I would say don't think that by applying for only €500 worth that you will be more likely to get the fund. That doesn't seem to be the case. So do put in as much as you think is necessary and be creative with that. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's about trying to improve the experience and the quality of the learning for your learners and also for the staff. Obviously, all of you are under massive pressure working through a pandemic. You're going above and beyond again and again and again. What could make your life easier to be able to work where you are, to be able to deliver your programs and communicate effectively as a team? So maybe think of some of the software or items that could do that as well. So it's basically similar questions as last time. And look, feel free to go off into a different direction with this. The main point of it is just having a support space. So like you're coming together to share ideas, to talk about the challenges. We'll obviously track all of that and we're feeding all of that back. But like tell each other what you're doing and make recommendations or share concerns. You know, it really is just about coming together. So the questions that we have there are you applying for the fund? Is there any barriers preventing you from applying? Because obviously if it's a challenge, as Niamh rightly said, like we've really strongly advocated for this, and if it isn't spent, it'll be very hard to ask for it again next year. But at the same time, if there's really strong reasons why people just can't, apply for the fund and spend the fund, well, then we need to be able to say, this is the situation and this is why. So we at least need to be able to gather that too. But hopefully we can work through all the challenges. And is there anything else that we can do to support you? So like at the moment, obviously we had the webinars, we've made this resource, it's on the website, we have a news piece that's there, we've listed all the dates and stuff, and we're getting back to people individually. But if there's anything else we can do, please do just let us know, because obviously that's what we're here for, is to support you. So we will go into the breakout rooms, if that's okay. Barry, are they ready? Is that all right? Yeah, of course, he's ahead of the game. So we'll go into the breakout rooms now, and please obviously just use it, as I said, as a collaborative space. And when we come back, we'll get that feedback, and look forward to seeing you then. Thanks, guys.
Think of the project name, the aim of the project, think about the profile of the adult learners or the marginalised group that you're engaging with, and then put down your wish list, including everything and anything that you would need. So those would be the kind of headings to keep in mind whenever you're filling out the application form. And a few other tips that we were coming up with there were, don't be shy about the money that you're asking for. Don't be sparse either. So try to think about absolutely everything, every bit of material that would be needed for different projects, including like if you had learners in for a project, like do they need help with using technology? Do they maybe need one-on-one lessons with the tutor to help them build up their technology skills? And we had discussed how you could frame that then as needing an external ICT professional to come in and provide that support. Because tutor costs aren't covered under the fund, but bringing in someone external like that would be. I hope I've got that right, Dearbháil. Correct me if I'm wrong though. That was most of it. We one member of the breakout room is planning to apply, and the main kind of challenge that they were raising was just getting the time to fill out the application form, which we can definitely sympathise with.
Yeah, so we had a couple of groups applying for the fund, and I suppose one of the biggest things that came up in terms of barriers was just the newness of the fund and the application process, the fact that it's been made available. So there are groups that are applying for the first time and that just are really seeking more clarity around the practical aspects of the application, questions around quotes, how many are needed, and then practical details such as, when the time comes to submit the application, where do you send it? To whom do you send it? So I suppose it's about accessing that knowledge base of those who are maybe more familiar with the fund and who've already applied. So then in terms of supports, obviously local ETBs can hopefully offer a bit more clarity, and CDETB have provided a checklist of the things that need to go into the applications. And then also AONTAS, that's our role here, is to support groups, because we would have that greater degree of familiarity with it. And that support that AONTAS has been offering has been helpful so far. And it was also mentioned that the tight turnaround, the time frame generates a lot of pressure on groups as well. So that's kind of contributing to the challenges in applying for it. Hopefully I captured everything from the group. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Dearbháil. And I think, I learned more from the people in my room than they did from me. So with Pamela and Willem and Margaret, and thanks so much. I suppose again, Dearbháil, just pointing out, like, software is really important and it's quite expensive. So just to bear that in mind when applying. And again, in terms of the quotations, up to 500, we think there's no quotation needed. And after that, then one quotation needed up to 3,000. And I suppose just to check with your own ETB again, because some of the ETBs seem to be accepting online quotations and others won't accept them. So Pamela just raised the point there about getting hand wipes in Tesco and things, and it's difficult to get the quotations, so just to be very mindful of that. And some ETBs will accept online quotations, others will not, so just to be very clear on that. And William just I suppose came up with some really great suggestions as well about what they are applying for: iPads and Apple Pins, and corresponding technology to coincide with Apple Pins, for instance, art software. So again, I suppose it's just to be mindful of the broad range of items that can be secured. And I suppose just one more thing, Dearbháil, Pamela raised this as well, a very good point, a movable outside canopy to cater for staff and participants, and a kind of a pop-up one that's easy to assemble for staff as well, but very beneficial. So there was great ideas. So thanks very much, everyone.
So thank you so much, everybody. It's been lovely to see you again. Enjoy the rest of your day, and do not hesitate at all to get in touch. Please do. That's what we're here for. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks a million.